Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This handsome gentleman over here is Tim, and this is the Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. Now, what we're going to dive in today as the pistol brace looms, we are going to talk about where it's at, what's been going on, where does it finally land as we get closer and closer to the deadline of June 1st. There's a lot of stuff to break down here. We're going to talk pretty high level and then dive in as far in as we can so we give you the best information possible. Now, if you guys like this content, you want to see Second Legacy grow, we'd love to invite you to do so. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn that notification bell on. We need as many of you as we can to get in here to help spread freedom, and thank you so much in advance for your consideration. We're going to say a quick word from our sponsor, Bullet Safe, and then we are going to hit it on the other side. Now, the vest you're seeing me wear is from Bullet Safe, and they've sponsored these videos. Bullet Safe is on a mission to be the #1 provider for safety equipment such as this for not only the civilian, but also the security market. Now, the VP3 that I'm wearing comes in at $299.97, which makes it completely affordable and provides up to or better than Kevlar protection. This thing is NIJ level 3 tested. You are talking about up to 44 Magnum stopping on this bad boy. They've made it concealable, discreet, comfortable, and breathable. It's modular and upgradable, and in comparison to previous models, it's 50% thinner and 25% lighter. As you can see, I'm wearing it in the filming of this spot, and it is not even adding to any of my dexterity whatsoever. This is something very concealable, and if you're in the market, this might be something just for you, and thank you to Bullet Safe for making this content possible. All right, and thank you so much to Bullet Safe for making this possible, but we are about to dive into the pistol brace, give you the updates, give you where it sits in the lay of the land, but before we do that, Tim, how the heck are you today, sir?
Doing good. Doing good. How about you?
You know, I'm okay. I'm good-ish. It's kind of close to this June 1st thing. That's kind of a wet blanket. But
it's a huge wet blanket, man.
It is. But there's also some good stuff. There's some good stuff. There's some wet blankets. There's probably some mildew somewhere. But we're going to get through this. Because, I mean, like, where do you want to start? Like, do you want to start really high level? Do you want to start the injunctions? Like, what do you think would be the best place to jump off from?
Let's talk about the injunctions.
Okay. So, you just want to start with the good news? Okay. So.
Well, I mean, it's debatable how good it is, right?
It's moderately good. The modicum of good. Ooh, modicum. Give me a quarter. All right. So, basically where we sit with this. You've got two different injunctions, and this is where we'll kind of bounce back and forth between Tim and I. You've got two different injunctions, all of them happening in the Fifth Circuit. So the Pistol Brace Rule, of course, is going into effect June 1st. Well, prior, there was two decisions all in the same week that kind of sent shockwaves through the whole ATF Pistol Brace approach. First, you had an FPC lawsuit, which dropped immediately. I think it was the 23rd. That came out, and that said, hey, there's an injunction for the plaintiffs in this case. Then there was a clarifying motion filed from FPC that says, hey, is it just the individual plaintiffs or is it every FPC member? Well, that's what happened on the 23rd. On the 25th, you had another court, which is below the original court. So Mock v. Garland is the big one. That's the one that I just mentioned. Then there's another case below that one in a lower court. That one also put an injunction for the plaintiffs. When they asked for a national injunction and more details, they basically punted to Mock v. Garland. So it's back to the FPC. So right now, you have the FPC lawsuit on the 23rd, Mock v. Garland. You have the 25th, which is a subsequent ruling in a lower court, which pointed back to Mock v. Garland, and that other one was brought by Second Amendment Foundation. Well, the news on Friday, I believe, was that they actually came back and said, no, it covers all FPC members within the Fifth Circuit, right? So where that sits, I mean, there's a lot of different nuance there. I mean, Tim, jump in at any point on this because there's a lot going on.
You know, I think what we all wanted, whether or not the Fifth Circuit could have granted it, I'm not sure. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I think what we all wanted was an injunction that was national, right? Just put the brakes on until we can litigate this and get this sorted out. And what we got was, an injunction for the plaintiffs at a minimum. Now it does appear to cover all members of FPC in the Fifth Circuit's jurisdiction, which is going to be a really limited number of people. So
yeah, probably about 1/5 of the landmass, I believe. 1/5 or 1/6.
Well, but I mean, the FPC members, I'm not sure what the membership roster looks like, but
it's a million last I checked.
Is it a million?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's good news for the people that are, in that jurisdiction. Right? Mm-hmm. So they're not going to have to panic right now. That's not to say that some overzealous police officer isn't going to arrest you and cause you a bunch of grief if you're caught with a braced pistol. That's just to say that, technically speaking, you're not at any legal liability until this is litigated if you're part of the protected group.
Right.
And so, I mean, for me, I don't live in the Fifth Circuit, so it doesn't apply to me. Yeah.
Right. No, it doesn't. But so that's kind of one of the things that I think that we could expound upon a little bit, because as we go forward, I mean, June 1st is the effective date. So it's right around the corner. It's this week. Then they've got the full ruling that's going to happen in the Fifth Circuit on the 2nd. So this is still a pending litigation. It's still moving forward. But Tim brings up an interesting point, and this is where you guys can leave some comments down there in the comments field. The wheels of our justice system roll so slowly that we might be behind an effective law made from the ATF through a rule before the court cases can actually stop it on a national level. I mean, you are correct. If it's the Fifth Circuit, they're not going to be able to put a national injunction, but they do put an injunction in their circuit. Well, now you've got a whole portion of the judiciary that says no, and the rest says maybe. That's kind of where this goes into, but I don't know. For me, any good news and for momentum is good. Is it the whole enchilada? No, it's not the whole enchilada at all.
But let's say that the Fifth Circuit decides that the Brace ruling is wrong and they undo it. Again, that only applies to the Fifth Circuit. It's much like the bump stock ruling, right?
Exactly.
The
That's
Fifth
where I was going
Circuit
next.
Decided, the bump stocks were decided not to be machine guns in the Fifth Circuit. So now the handful of states within the Fifth Circuit's jurisdiction can have bump stocks again. And based upon what I've heard coming out of ATF through people in the industry, ATF sent congratulations to the founder of Slidefire. And so I don't think they're going to go any further with it. They're just going to let that one sit. And that also creates a problem for the Supreme Court, because now we have, two different jurisdictions, two different circuits saying two different things. One's decided that it is a machine gun, and the other one has decided it's not. So this is why the Supreme Court exists. They're supposed to resolve this, but we haven't heard any movement there yet. And so let's see what happens with the braces. So very well, the Fifth Circuit could decide at some point in the future that, you can't do this, ATF. It only protects those states. And so now we got to go to the Supreme Court and say, hey, can we roll this out nationally? And they may or may not hear the case. If no other circuit rules on it, they may not. But generally speaking, the Supreme Court doesn't like to let two different groups of Americans exist, right? You're protected, you're not. Right, so we got to make a decision here. Generally, that's the case. But when we deal with firearms, as I've said many times before, you just never know what they're going to do.
Different animal, baby.
If it was about any other issue, any other hot button issue, it would be a clear-cut decision. But when we get to guns, everybody's scared to make the right decision there at the judicial level, it seems.
Yeah, except Bruin, when they just came in like Miley Cyrus with a wrecking ball. And they
Supreme Court's done a good job lately, but the lower courts haven't. They're all over the place still.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that's a fair observation. If you had, I think a very like example would be the bump stocks. I think that's a great example. You've got this. I think it was the Sixth Circuit and the Fifth Circuit are now in conflict. Two of the cases being in the Fifth Circuit also in conflict. But the SCOTUS, just so you guys know, you're watching, the SCOTUS picks I think 3% of cases that it gets a year. It doesn't pick a lot of cases, and I think time is on the side of the legislation, but I think eventually the days are numbered, because like you said, Tim you nailed something really important. The Supreme Court does not like having two different rules for two different classes of people. It does not like that. It is never like that. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know when the outcome will be. I think I know the outcome, what it will be. I just don't know when. In fact, I mean, you could even look, and this is where you kind of tie back in the Supreme Court. We'll do a video on this later this week, but the Sackett case that just came down around the wetlands, and basically they said, hey, that's more interpretation that the EPA can't just make up whole cloth. Well, in a calendar year, that's two decisions against the EPA, one for the Clean Water Act and one for the Clean Air Act, both of which they were overusing the interpretive powers through Chevron deference of an executive bureaucracy. The SCOTUS smacked them both, and they've got Chevron deference coming up. I don't know, man. I'm looking where this is going, and if the Supreme Court does strike down Chevron deference, I think you're going to see a lot of things unlock. A lot of things, because then you don't have the lower courts that can just go, oh, well, you know what, we should probably just yield to the state legislatures, or we should yield to the federal government for Congress, because, the federal bureaus, because, Congress wasn't specific enough. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think they knock it down. I think that opens up a floodgate.
I think the only reason that they've been hesitant to deal with Chevron is because we've lived under it for so long, and so many decisions and changes and rules have been handed down that it's going to create a bit of chaos if they strike it down. Yeah. Right?
Just like Bruin did.
I think they're going to be apprehensive about that. I'm sure what they're doing right now in their chambers is taking a look at how this is going to affect things, right? And so my fear is that they're going to go, wow, this is going to create a bigger mess, and we're just not going to deal with it. That's my biggest fear, right? Especially when it comes to the Second Amendment. And it's not unheard of the courts to apply things differently based upon the subject being discussed or litigated, right? So it goes back to what I've often said. If this was about any other hot button issue, easy decision. The Supreme Court's definitely going to decide on the side of right here. But when we get the Second Amendment and gun rights, it's a little bit more nuanced in their minds, and they got to take this a little bit more carefully because they don't want to be the ones responsible for whatever it is in their minds that they think they might be responsible for if they hand down a ruling that winds up being unpopular. So I don't know. It's crazy. I just, even though we've had really good decisions from the Supreme Court, I'm always apprehensive of the courts because I don't always trust them to make the right decision, because even favorable courts have made bad decisions. So I'm not going to say I know the outcome. I'm just going to say I hope. I think it's leaning towards the right decision, but anything could mix that up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, and if you guys are watching this, I mean, don't take our our opinions on it as what will 1,000% happen, because like you said, like, you never know what will happen between here and there and how it changes and all these different pieces. But on the other side of that, though, if you look historically over the last 2 years, the Supreme Court's decisions that have been coming down have been much more oriented towards freedom and independence from a overarching government than the latter. I mean, even if you look at the healthcare situation over the last 2 years, even those rulings came down in favor of the population, not in favor of the government. I mean, the CDC was overriding rental agreements, like all sorts of things, mandated school reimbursement or student loan debt forgiveness, like all those things, they've been kind of smoked, to be quite honest. Bruin decision came down. EPA just got smoked twice. It's looking in a certain direction. I mean, not to paint too much of a rainbow, but I mean, it does look like it's at least heading in the right direction. So I'm hopeful.
I would agree. It looks good, but I'm not ready to make that statement, right? Because just never know, man. You think you got one in the bag, and you don't.
Oh, no. I haven't even bought a bag yet, Tim. I don't even think there's a bag. No, I have no bag. I have my eye on one. But there is no proverbial bag. I'm just kind of like, hey, guys, if you could just throw it this way, and once I see it airborne, then I'll buy the bag. We'll be good. But once I see it this way, because Bruin came down, that was like, I needed a really big bag. That was like a tasty bag of delicious. And it just kept giving. Over the last 8 months, it's just been destroying gun control across the nation.
It has.
So
it has.
I'm
it
just
was a
saying.
Great decision. Let's just hope that it continues. Yeah,
that's right, and that's all we can hope for. But where we sit right now with the FPC, or with the pistol brace, still going into effect June 1. The most updated term is June 2nd for the next case on it in the Fifth Circuit, and the beat goes on, and that's what we've got for you guys right now.
Yep. So hopefully things go our way. Folks, if you'd like to be part of our call-in show, it's really easy to do. There's a link in the video description below. Follow that link, fill out the information. We will contact you, get you on the show. You can ask your question, make a statement. We have a great conversation around 2A issues. Until then, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon.